Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors at Trillium. I don't think it's hard to recognize that we influence each other. Human beings are very imitative. Children imitate their environment. We often learn by imitating each other. And so it's no surprise that I influence what you want and desire in life, and you influence what I want and desire in life. And if that's the case, then it's not hard to imagine why we can sometimes enter into rivalry, because we want the same thing, or we're moving in the same direction. And if that rivalry intensifies enough, we become obstacles to each other. And if we become obstacles to each other, it's very easy to move into us becoming enemies. See, because if you can't go around an obstacle to get what you want in life, then sometimes you have to go through it, and that means pushing the other person out of the way. And, well, nobody likes being pushed out of the way, and that can produce conflict, potentially violence, even destruction. And so the natural ending point when we have common desire is potentially making each other into the enemy. And if we become enemies, then we're only one small step away from seeking revenge on each other. See, if you actually take what I want and desire, you take it, and I can't have it, then sometimes that can escalate to the point where I want to bring retribution against you for it. And so revenge becomes very much a part of the human experience. Shakespeare, it said, wrote about 38 plays. And if you look at the plays, almost every storyline in each of the plays is driven by the energy of revenge. Revenge is the primary motif of the story, or at least it's certainly a big part of it. That's true for the tragedies, but it's also true for the comedies as well, the stories with a happy ending. Even the stories with happy endings have within them the motif of revenge that drives the story forward. See, revenge is something you do to your enemies, not to your friends. Now, if your friend betrays you, then they become the enemy, and then you can exact revenge on them. But normally, we exact revenge on our enemies. Probably the most famous of all tragedies is the story of Hamlet, in Shakespeare's corpus at least. It's a story of pure revenge, a revenge in its pure form. The story begins essentially with Hamlet meeting the ghost of his father. See, his father had been recently murdered. And the ghost tells Hamlet, the ghost of Hamlet's father tells Hamlet that the murderer was Hamlet's uncle, that is the father's brother, who murdered Hamlet's father to become the new king of Denmark. And the ghost instructs Hamlet to carry out revenge, for Hamlet to go and kill his uncle for the murder of his father, for this foul deed. And the ghost essentially commands Hamlet to carry forth revenge. Now, the people in Shakespeare's time who went to the theater would have expected Hamlet to carry out the revenge. See, revenge theater was essentially the theater of the 17th century. The storyline of revenge was an inevitable and natural part of telling stories back then. And so Hamlet would have been expected to carry out the revenge. And eventually he does 3 hours later. But see, the problem is Hamlet doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to carry out revenge. He doesn't want to engage himself in that. In essence, he doesn't see the point of it. He's totally ambivalent about it. And of course, at the end, Hamlet does kill his uncle and a host of other people too. So the audience is satisfied, but not before Shakespeare actually turns the whole revenge motif on its head, shows its absurdity and pointlessness. And so at the end of the play, we're wondering about not only revenge itself, but the point of revenge. It's a very thin line between justice and revenge. The line is so thin that we can step over it without even noticing it. At Trillium, we have 9 core values. It begins with offering friendship and fellowship to all. And the 9th core value at the very end is speak out for justice. And the speaking out for justice is important to us, but at Trillium, as an expression of our Christian faith, we have to make the journey through all the other intervening core values before we can actually speak out for justice. That just means we have to go through the value of upholding honesty and integrity, and the value of reaching out and serving others with kindness, and the value of offering and seeking forgiveness. It's only when we've committed to living a life of integrity, of kindness, and of mercy, forgiveness, then we're ready to speak out for justice. Otherwise, it's almost certain that when we speak out for justice, we're actually bringing out a cry for revenge into the world. See, the world's justice is so often really simply the motif of revenge theater being played out. Why? Because it doesn't go through the journey of integrity, of mercy, of forgiveness, of kindness before it comes to the speaking of justice. And so we get often simply revenge masked as justice. In Paul's letter to the Romans in chapter 12, there's a whole section that's essentially a recapitulation of the Sermon on the Mount. Paul's showing us a way different from the world's motif of revenge. He says this, he says, if your enemies are hungry, that is those people who are the obstacles to you in life, those people who are your rivals, who are in the way of you getting what you want in life. If your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. Do not let evil defeat you. Instead, conquer evil with good. See, Jesus came into the world to show to us that God is not the enemy, nor the obstacle, not even a rival. How far will he go to show us this? Well, he went all the way to the cross. God, the obstacle, was moved out of the way on the cross. And if we were living in the revenge theater motif of the world, we would sit there waiting for the just punishment of the wrongdoer for the wrongful murder of the Son of God. What we get instead actually is the resurrection. Resurrection is the answer to the vengeance seeking of the world. And it seems to me as followers of Christ, we don't have to imitate the world anymore. We're not called to imitate the world. We can choose a different way. And we're not Hamlet stuck in with the inevitable command to carry out the revenge of the world. No, we can seek a different motif in life. And we can substitute the world's yearning for revenge with the gospel's call to love.